Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's session. This is a repeat of last week's session where we looked at service invoices. So we'll spend about maybe in the region of about 45 minutes looking at that this morning. Plenty of opportunity to get your questions submitted, and we'll try and pick them up along the way. As usual, just a bit of housekeeping before we do get stuck in. So you don't need a microphone. If you've got one, you will find it's muted automatically. So any questions, pop them into the questions panel. You just need to click the little speech bubble on the toolbar down the right hand side of your screen. Give it a click, it'll expand the panel. You'll have access to that box at the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Pop any questions or comments, pop them in there. Remember to click send, otherwise we won't get them. And if anyone wants a copy of today's slides, they are available to download during this morning's session. As usual, the session is being recorded. A link to the recording will be included on your follow-up email. And that follow-up email will also include a link to our webinar registration page. Our timetable currently runs up to the end of January, so if you haven't already, please do check that out. Get yourself registered for any sessions that might interest you. If you can't attend them, recordings are also available. A link to the recordings page is also included on that email, and you'll receive that email around about an hour after we finish today. Let's take a look at what we're going to be covering though. So we're going to start with a brief introduction. We'll then get stuck into some demonstrations, which is, I think, why everyone comes along to these webinars, so you can actually see it in action and get that running commentary as we run through the invoicing process. We'll explain a bit more where you can find out more about the process. So if you want those sort of detailed step-by-step guides, they're available via our help centre. A little bit about additional support as well. And of course, if there are any outstanding questions, hopefully we'll have a little bit of time at the end to maybe pick some of those up as well. But do keep them coming. Hopefully, I'm just expecting, as some of you submit them, that I'll recognise that I'm about to maybe cover that at some point. So maybe we'll not have to stop for questions too often. Right, okay, let's get started then. So a little bit of an introduction. So if you do sell services rather than products, obviously you have the option in Sage 50 accounts to raise what you would term a service invoice. With the service invoice, it's all about just sort of typing in some text onto the invoice itself, and you'll see that in the demonstration as we run through it. It's a very simple process to enter your invoice, pretty much as you'd expect when it comes to invoicing. We will be running through all aspects of that invoice, or the various tabs that you've got available, the fields where certain information is pulled from. So things like default nominal codes, tax codes, that type of thing. So we'll be looking at obviously creating your invoice within the invoices and credits module. We'll be looking at emailing and printing. We just touch on that briefly. We've had separate webinars on those in the past, particularly on the email side of things. You tend to find most people do email them these days. I think probably when you are invoiced, you'd probably expect to receive it via that way these days, as opposed to printing. Get very few questions on printing these days. It's nearly all email. And of course, just to finish that process, there's the update ledgers. It's a possibly an option that a lot of people forget about, particularly if you're new in that area. But the update ledgers is essentially that point where it commits the invoice to your accounts at that point. So it transfers the sort of the background information and posts the transactions against the customer's account. You'd see that obviously within nominal and the transactions list. And of course, when you go into bank, when you go to pay off that invoice, the transaction should be listed as well. So quite a simple sort of flow chart as far as service invoicing is concerned. Now, I always like to mention this when we talk about service invoices. A lot of people think, well, I'm service-based, therefore I need to raise a service invoice. It's quite often, and probably I would say probably about 50% of cases, quite often it's not the case. And sometimes a product invoice is still the better option. Service invoice lets you enter free text, so you can enter as much text as you want. You can add as many items as you want as well. You can sort of format the text to a certain extent on a service invoice, sort of the alignment, that type of thing. With a product invoice, it's all about pulling through items from your products and services list. But you also have what we term special codes, so S1, S2, S3, and also the M special codes. Those sort of, I suppose, give you that added flexibility when it comes to product invoicing. But if you think about your products, obviously you can have non-stock items. They can be set up within the products list. And because of that, a lot of people do use it for service invoicing. So you think you could set up a product record for things like call-out charge, an hourly rate, a daily rate, if you might have set services. Or that type of thing. It means you can set up your a non-stock product record. You can give it a standard description, saves you typing it in each time. And also you can even, obviously, things like a unit price, you can specify that as well. So you're not sat there with a calculator each time. And you can add as many products as you want. There's no limit to that. And it just means when it comes to invoicing, you can pull that information through. So essentially you're still documenting the services you provide, but it saves you typing in all the text each time. But if you're more free text based, you want to put in a much more detailed description, then probably service invoicing is for you. Now, if you haven't seen the product invoice webinar, there is a recording available. It's one that Laura ran, I think probably 2 weeks ago now. We ran that a couple of times. We touch on it invoicing quite a bit here and there as well on various other webinars. Remember, you've always got the demonstration data and the practice company as well that you can have a go of. And if you're on, I think it's version 31. Trying to remember if I'm right on that one. I think it's version 31. If you're on version 31, the practice company, you can actually restore a backup of your data into that one. And it means that you can have a go of it using a copy of your data in the practice company without touching your live data. It means you can have a good play around with that. When you close out the practice company, it will just reset the practice company itself. But it means, as I say, you can have a bit of a play around, a bit of experiment without impacting on your live data. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll get stuck into enter some service invoices, try and show you sort of the ins and outs of entering it and the settings in the background, that type of thing. So I'll share my screen. We'll get stuck into a bit of a demo. So we've got invoices and credits on the left-hand ledger here. Always like to mention, if you don't have that, it's going to be for one of two reasons, because invoices and credits is available in all levels of the software. So it doesn't matter whether you're on Essential, Standard, Professional, or the Client Manager Edition, you will have access to invoices and credits. If it's not there, it's because either your username doesn't have access to it, in which case it would just be need to be enabled by either the manager user or an admin user, or the other one, and it's very unusual, this one, but where you can right click on your toolbar down the right, and when you do that, it will give you a list of the options that you have access to. So you can see you've got invoices and credits, but it could be at some point you maybe come in and switch that off. So you've just hidden it. It's still there, but you've just hidden it from that list. So if there's any options you don't use on this list, such as diary, I always mention diary because not many people use that. It's been around for a long, long time, that diary function. And again, I think it's not as straightforward as maybe you'd hope in the way it integrates with Outlook. But a lot, therefore, because of that, some people like to hide it. Easy to hide, just again right click, it should be on your list there, and you can hide it if you want. So it's a good way of sort of decluttering your toolbar if needed. So if invoices and credits isn't there, do just right click. Is it on your list? If it is, switch it back on, and there it is. Right, now if I go into invoices and credits, you can see I've got a bit of a list here. And if I just click new invoice, and we'll say, if you can enter a new invoice, you can enter a new credit, pretty much the same. We're going through some of the other options on the toolbar a little bit later on. If I click new invoice, it'll bring up a blank invoice for me. Now, by default, it will pick up an invoice. Sorry, a product in hand to pick up an invoice. It picks up a product invoice. So the format will default to product. And from the drop down, you can change that. can switch to a service if required. You can set that as a default. If I just close back out, I can go into settings and then down to invoice and order defaults. Again, if it's not listed, that's going to be down to your access levels. So if you need it, it would need to be enabled by manager or an admin user. So settings, invoice and order defaults. Just quickly run you through a couple of the settings in here. So first of all, on the general tab, it's this option here, default invoice. So the default format when you click new invoice in invoices and credits is product invoice. But you can switch to a service invoice if required. If you're on the professional level, you can also choose either a product pro forma or a service pro forma as your default. Other levels, you'll just have product invoice or service invoice. So I can set it to a service invoice, meaning each time I go to generate a new invoice, it will pick up that. So I don't need to change it each and every time. While I'm in here, I'll quickly mention a few of the other options. One is on the options tab itself, and it's your numbering sequence. So if you start just sort of joining Sage, or maybe you're still quite early on in the process, so maybe you're moving from other invoicing software across to Sage and you're going to start entering them in Sage 50 now, you can pick up your numbering sequence just by changing this. So I'll set mine to change it from that one to, let's say I want to start mine from 600. I can do that. I could do that with the credits as well. I've got a similar option. Actually, I might as well do that while I'm here. Now, other ones to mention while I'm in here is the settings on the Update Ledgers tab. Now, there's not a lot in here, but basically once we've entered the invoice, when we go to update it to the ledgers, it will look at the settings in this area. Now, the two to quickly mention are these two here, the top two options. Been around for a little while, these options. So when you update your invoice to the ledgers, essentially to the customer's account, what it will do is by default, it will transfer the invoice number and it will pop that into the reference field of the transaction. So you still got your transaction number, but the reference column, that will include the invoice number. Now, I would always recommend you leave it set to that. Makes it much more easier to use the software if you've got it set to that. You got that cross-reference then as well. The second one is for the X reference fields or the extra reference field. So you can choose. Now you're not going to have it set to the same thing. That'll be pointless. But you've really therefore got two options to choose from. One is to update it with your order number from the invoice, and the other is to use the customer order number. Now the advantage of using the customer order number is that when you're looking at the customer activity, so let's say you query, customers querying something on their account, it means that you can see on the activity, you'll have invoices listed. Obviously, it will list the detail, etc. The reference will show us the actual invoice number when you've raised that invoice and sent it to them. And the extra reference will then show their specific number. So if they've provided you with that, it means that you're not going back and forwards between the activity and the actual invoice itself to try and sort of join the dots. So it's up to you though which one you use. If you use sales orders in the professional level, it means that it will pull through the sales order number instead. It's up to you what you use, but I would always say leave the reference as the invoice number. The other one to mention as well is this little text box here, where it says services. Now you'll see it's grayed out. It becomes active if you tick the box. And what this will do, it's not switched on by default, which means that when you update the invoice to the ledgers, if it's a service invoice, it's going to use some of that detail in the details of the transaction itself. If you don't want that detail to be transferred across, and instead you would just rather say, say some specific text, then this is when you can switch that on. And by default, it'll just have the word services. All it would mean is when you're looking at your customer activity, you're looking down the details column against each transaction for any invoice you've updated to the ledgers, it's going to say services. Now that's not retrospective, it'll only do it when you update ledgers. So if you've already done some where it wasn't ticked, it will actually have the description against the actual invoice itself. But it's not switched on by default. It's up to you whether you want to use that one or not. Right, let's get back to invoices and credits then, and we'll go into invoices and credits. We'll click new, and obviously this time, the format, it should default to service, which it has. Now, even though it's defaulted to service, I can still click on the drop down. I can change it back to product if I want to. The difference between a product invoice and a service is you'll see the number of columns. So when it's a product, you've got things like the product code, so we can pull through from the product and services list, we can pull through items from there. But we've got that sort of almost like a price list where we can specify that product code, or we can say, right, it'll pull through the description, the price, etc. With a service, it's a bit more straightforward. So we get a details column where we can enter our text. You get the amount, and then you get a net and a VAT amount. Whereas with a product invoice, if we just quickly switch back to it, you'll see on here that what we get now is we get an additional columns, product code, and you get the quantity column. With service, it's all about keying in the text and then just specifying the amount. Right, we'll quickly work through these fields in the top corner. So obviously type is defaulted to invoice, format is service. It's picked up today's date. Again, if you find that yours isn't, it picks up the program date from Sage 50 accounts. Now, the program date in Sage 50 accounts is picked up when you first open the software. When you open the software, it will look at your PC date and it will use that. Now, it will obviously refresh that every time you open up the software. So if you're finding yours is wrong, chances are it's probably just that you've locked the software, you've not shut your PC down, maybe gone home, come back the next day, you just unlock your PC, Sage is still open, therefore the date would still be when you last used it. But if you're closing Sage down, which the majority do, when you open it up, it will pick up your PC date. If you're finding this is totally wrong, even though you've done that, then your PC date is going to be wrong. A bit more unusual these days with everyone being internet connected. You tend to find it picks up the date and the time automatically for you these days. Now next you've got the account reference. Now this is your hot link, or what you term a smart link. So once you've specified a customer, I'll just quickly do one. See when I do that, it pulls through things like the name and address automatically for me. But it means that the hot link is, or the smart link is then active. Now if I click that little link, it takes me into the detail of the customer record itself. So I can view that, I can see changes, make changes and save the changes. I've also got at this point, when I'm going to specify an account or select it from the list, I can click new. Click new means that you can create a customer on the fly. So if you don't already have them set up, you can do it at that point. Specify all the usual details. You've then got the invoice number. Now it says auto number. Now the reason for that is that when you click save, that's the point when it will allocate the invoice number to the actual invoice itself. It won't allocate a number until you click save. It just means it will look at the settings, invoice in order defaults, and on that options tab where you've got the next invoice number, it will look at that and say, right, well, this is the next number I need to use. Now, if that number is already in use for whatever reason, so there's already an invoice or a credit note on that list using that number, it will just continue through that list until it finds the next available number in that sequence. You've got your order number field. Now, if you're not using sales order processing, this will be blank, and it means that you've got essentially a text field there. So if I just start keying in, you can see you've got up to 7 characters. Not a great deal of room, but it's what you've got. You've got the due date. The due date will be picked up automatically from, or will be calculated automatically based on the payment due days within the customer's record. So it'll look at the customer, it'll say, right, obviously this is today's date, but what's the credit terms for that customer? And it will calculate the due date automatically. You can override that if needed. I think by default it's going to be set to 30 days, but again, you can change it if required. Item number says no items at the moment. I haven't entered anything. So as I do, you'll see this starts changing as well. Final field up at the top right hand corner here is the customer order number. That used to be tucked away on the order tab. Hence, people used to forget to fill that in. So it was brought from the order tab onto the front screen. Again, just so that you're prompted. Now you can enter a lot more information in this one. I think this is 130. Let me have a quick check. Oh, it's still going. Oh, so a few more. So plenty of scope there to pop your customer order number in there. So remember when we talked about the settings and the update ledgers fields. So by default, it's your invoice number is going to update to the reference field. And then for the extra reference field, it's do you want it to update with this information, whatever you pop in there, or do you want it to use the customer order number? Or there was also the option to do nothing as well. Up to you. Now, when we specify the customer, you can see it pulled through the customer's name and the address. You do have the option to paste in an address. I was going to say that's a fairly recent feature, but been around for a few years, the ability to paste an address in. So if someone's emailed you, it means that you can key it, you can copy and paste it. So you're not sitting there keying in each error every time. You can click into the box as well, and you can amend it. Or if you're taking the details of the invoice and you just say, right, I see addresses, in this case 67A Station Road, and they go, actually, it should be whatever. It means you can amend it there and then. We then come on to the main body of the invoice. So I'll just tab down into the details field. And at this point, we can literally start typing. Now, I can really edit as much text as I want. Not really any restriction on that one, which is the beauty of the service invoicing. If I do shift and return at that point, lets me sort of almost like tab down to the next line, but still within the first item. So that was shift and return. Rather than me going on to a secondary item line, I'm still on the first item, but I can maybe start providing more detail. So plenty of scope there to key that in anyway. If I just press the tab key, move along to the amounts, I'll just pop an amount in there. Now you'll see that it calculates the net and the VAT automatically for me. Now, if I tab down, you can see I'm on a second line at that point. So I can start adding additional items in there if I want to. I'm just going to go back to this first item, and I've got this little sort of drill down arrow. If I click on that, it takes me into the edit item line. Some of you will be familiar with this from if you enter product invoices as well. So you can see it's brought through part of the description and it's showing all the detail in the details field. Again, I can amend it within here if required. Coming down to the values area, for a service invoice, the quantity / hours will default to 1. I can amend that if needed. But I suppose the idea with the service is that you're outlining the detail, and then you're just quoting a price for that service. You're not saying, right, annual service, I want 2 of them. If you're going into quantities of anything other than 1, I suppose that's when you'd realistically, you would start looking at product invoicing. So defaults to 1 anyway. Unit price, obviously it's pulled that through from the previous invoice screen. We can amend it in here if required. We've got discount percentage or discount amount. So I just type in, let's say 10%. It will calculate 10% of the unit price, which in this case, we've got a discount of £10. Similarly, if I just key in an amount, so £15, tab out of that field, you'll see it calculates a discount percentage. So these two are obviously linked to each other. Just set that back to 10. Keep it nice round figure. We then got the net and the VAT. Now the VAT, you'll see it's active. I can't amend the net here because that's calculated automatically based on the quantity times the unit price with an adjustment for any discount. The VAT though, if you've calculated that in other software, or possibly even you've just calculated it manually, you never know, you might find the odd sort of penny or cent of rounding in there. So you can override it if required. So if I just worked it out manually and thought, well, it's £90, and the way I calculated it should be £18 and a penny, I can do that. I'll just set that back though. So it lets me override that if needed. Now you get your posting details. So when you update the ledgers with the invoice, excuse me. So you got your posting details there. So you've got the nominal, which is pulled through from the customer's record. You got the tax code, also pulled through from the customer record, and also the department, which is pulled through from the customer record. If you were doing a product invoice, then it will pull it through from the product record, this information. There is an option to override it, but it will by default pull that through from the product record. But with a service, it just pulls it directly from the customer. You've got an option to make it a negative line if required. So if you want to show a discount on the actual main body of the invoice, you can do that. You've got line information, so just a text box. And then with it being a service, you've got the option to link it to a project as well. Now you can't do that with a product invoice, or not with products and services anyway. The idea is you would have already sort of, you don't want to double count for the value essentially. You don't need that breakdown, so you can't do that for a product invoice. It needs to be a service invoice. You've got CalcNet. Now CalcNet, if you've not come across this before, if I just set this back to 0, the discount percentage, so that we're back to where we were. Now let's say I want to charge £100 including VAT. Now probably nice and easy to work that out in your head with it being a nice round figure, but for more unusual figures, so 79.53 as an example, that's what I'm charging in total. Got no idea what the net and VAT would be based on my tax code. So if I need to break it down, I can just click CalcNet and it will work that out for me. So it's calculated £66.28. We got the VAT here as well, £13.25. It's calculated that automatically for me based on whatever entered in the unit price, and of course the tax code that we've got specified. Again, I'm just going to reset that so we've got nice round figures for the purpose of the demo. You've got discounts. Now, if you're looking at your values and thinking, where on earth does the discount percentage or amount come from, then you can click the discounts option and it will point you in the right direction. Now, there's quite a few different discount options when it comes to invoicing in Sage. You can have a set discount on the customer account itself. You can have, which is not applicable to service, but you can have a stock quantity discount. You've got stock discount tables, which are set within the product records themselves. And of course, that needs to be allocated to the customer. You've got invoice value discount. You've got manual discount, which is the value that we just seen in the background, and then it's got a total there as well. So discounts, sometimes you can if you're using things like price lists, you might have additional discounts on the customer record, but there might be other discounts that come into the fray as well. So just in case, you've got that option there, so it'll point you then in the right direction. Anyway, we just got it's just kept it nice and simple there. So I'll just OK that. And that's it done. Now, if I was ready, I could just click save at that point and it would save the invoice and allocate that number against the invoice itself. So it should pick up, if my memory's right, it should pick up 600 from what I keyed in a little bit earlier. But we've got a number of tabs along the left-hand side there. So we're on the details tab. That's what we just completed all of those details. You've got 3 others as well. You've got the order tab. So the order tab is where you'll see things like the delivery address. You've got 3 notes fields. You've got Incoterms. You've got the tax code there based around the delivery address chosen if it's any different. You've got the customer order details. So it's pulling most of that through from the customer record. It will also pull through the order taken by, so you can see it says manager at the moment, and that's because that's how I'm logged into Sage. So it can keep track of who's entered it. Something that you can overwrite if required. So I could click into it and just overwrite what's there very easily. You've got custom fields. Now, custom fields, you've got 3 of those. Up to you what you want to use them for. If you've never used custom fields before, most commonly used in product records and customer records. It's really up to you what you want to use them for. Sometimes that's the most common question we get with regard to custom fields. What should I use them for? It's almost like, well, what additional information do you want to record? You can change the titles of these analysis fields as well, if required. So if rather than just being called analysis 1, you might put, I don't know, you might call it marketing, for instance. And it might just be that when a customer places an order, you might think, well, actually, if it's a new customer, I always ask them at this stage, can I just ask where you heard about us? Or why did you buy from us today? And it might be you just type in some additional information. You could include that potentially in your invoice. It might be there for search purposes as well. But it is just text. You can't build like a drop-down list like you can for some of the other fields. So it would ask you for the text there and there. Finally, I'm going to say finally there, next you've got the footer tab. Now the footer tab is all about the carriage, settlement details, global, and you've got your tax analysis in here as well. If you need to attach a carriage charge, you can set defaults for this if required. So you can key in your net, you've got a tax code specified, it'll calculate tax automatically, and the gross, you can specify a nominal code, department, your consignment number, and also a courier, and you've got courier tracking facility here as well. Needs to be done in a specific format for that to work. But you can set your courier information up in advance. You do that on the, I think it's a tools menu. You've got a web option. Next, you've got settlement terms. not commonly used these days. The demonstration data you tend to find if you're working in a copy of the demonstration data, which tends to be myself and Jackie and Laura and Abby and Matt, we tend to use that demonstration data a lot. So it does have it on there because it's always been in there in the practice company. But you can, in yours, chances are you're probably not going to use it. Settlement terms is probably what you'd more commonly refer to as early payment discount. So is that something is something that you offer, then you can easily key that in, and you can either key it in at this point, or you can specify it within the customer's record. Next, you've got the global option. Not massively used these days. I think when computers were a lot less powerful, these were commonly used. What these are used for, let's say you've got an invoice with, like, let's say 10 items on it, 10 different item lines. Do you want that to update as 10 different item lines to the customer account? So you'd have one header where it's grouped together, but the individual detail, do you need that or not? If you do, that's fine, you wouldn't use global. If you don't, then you can use global. And what that would mean is that it updates all of those 10 item lines as one single transaction onto the customer's account. So you lose that bit, almost like that bit of detail. Now, for that to work, because it will always have a tax code here in the department, you just need to specify a nominal code, but not massively use these. Now, I think there's a guideline these days on data, that's a guideline of about 250,000 transactions in Sage. Now, that's not a hard limit, just in case you're thinking that. So if you're sat there on 249,500 transactions today, don't worry, it's not going to stop working. But it is sort of a recommended sort of limit. But it will just continue as normal. You might get the odd warning here and there saying you're approaching this value, but it's not going to stop working. Just let you go on. And then at the bottom here, you've got your tax analysis breakdown as well, based on what you've entered on the invoice itself. You've got your payment option, or your payment tab down the side. So if you want to record the details of a payment, or maybe show that, include the details of a payment that's already been received, you've got information in here. Just a case of filling in the detail and then choosing what it is you've done. So do you want to post that as a new payment on account? Do you want it to post as a receipt? And it won't do that until you update to the ledgers then. Or is it something you've already received? Is it a deposit? And actually you're saying, right, well, I'm invoicing you for £120 now, but you might have keyed in a value to say, right, well, you've actually already paid £50 and I just want to reflect that on the outstanding amount. Just in case anyone's wondering about the paid deposit by card, this is used if you subscribe to a PO by Elevon, what used to be known as Sage Pay many years ago. Pay deposit by card allows you to take card payments. Also means you can include a Pay Now link on your invoices and also your customer statements and any letters that you might send out via Sage as well. It means that your customers can pay you online and that would automatically download into your software. So again, can save you a little bit of time, make it a bit of a slicker process. You'll find more information about a PO by Elevon within your software. Just on your toolbar, you'll have the apps and add-ons option on that left toolbar from the main screen. A couple of options you've got along the top as well. You've got obviously clear it, would mean that it would just resets what you're on. You've got the pay by card, which is, again, it relates to this option. You've got the cash sale. So that would record the receipt at the same time as when you save it. So we'll just assume you want to update ledgers, etc. as you run through that. If you're on the professional, you've got memorize and recall. You've got the option to delete the invoice you're in. You've got quick print, and you've got the option to view online if there's any attachments. I haven't saved mine yet, so there's nothing to view online just yet. Now, if I'm happy with all of that, I could just click Save. That's the basics of entering an invoice, a service invoice. I'll just go back to my list, scroll down to the bottom, you can see it there. So number 600. Now, hasn't been updated to the ledgers just yet. It means I can go back into it. I can make whatever changes I want. Once you've updated it to the ledgers, that's when it's sort of committed to your account and it's cast in stone almost at that point. But it's listed there. Now, it's not reflected in the customer balance just yet because I haven't updated it to the ledgers. But I just wanted, before I do that, I want to quickly run through some of the other options you've got along the top. Now, if I click New Credits at the top, default, in this case, it's defaulted to a product, but let's say you want to do a service credit, pretty much the same. The way that you key it in, essentially the options that you have available, other than there's no payment tab for this one, then as long as you get into service invoice, you should be more than capable of doing a service credit. If we highlight one, you can see that a lot more of the options become active. Go edit, just takes you back into the edit screen so you can start making changes. Again, assuming that you haven't updated it to the ledgers yet. Duplicate, useful option if you've got the same invoice that you want to raise time and time again, whether that's, let's say, a customer coming, excuse me, a customer that's like will want to place a repeat order, for instance, or alternatively, you want to maybe it's the same invoice, but you want to do it for a number of different customers. So let's say you had professional fees or monthly subscriptions, annual subscriptions, that type of thing that you want to send out to. It's the same invoice time and time again for a number of different customers. So that one I've just keyed in, for instance, I could highlight it. I could click duplicate at the top, and then it's got the detail in there. But maybe I just, well, I want to invoice this customer for exactly the same thing. Again, you can see it's probably, well, maybe the eagle-eyed among you, it's brought some discount through this time. Just drill in. You see it's bought that, it's got 5% discount in there. So again, if I'm trying to find out where that's come from, I can drill in and I can see why it's either invoice value percentage, which is going to be set within the customer record itself. Now, it still means I can change it at this point, but it's set within the customer's record. So I've got them set to receive a 5% discount off their invoice value, just as a default. But using that duplicate option is a quick way of generating additional invoices. You got recurring. So again, if it was something like a monthly subscription, you might think, well, rather than me generate it each month, I'll just let the software do that for me. The option I want to quickly mention is update ledgers. If I highlight this invoice, the first one that we entered, and click update ledgers, I'll just preview it so you can see what's included on that. A lot of people just cancel out of that mess at that point. This is the update ledgers report. When I was a lot younger and on support, people used to print this out. I've never come across anyone printing this for years. But this is a copy essentially of the transactions that gets created on the back of that service invoice. Let's close out of that one. Now at that point, the service invoice that we'd entered, you'll see in the posted column, it does say yes. That means it has been updated to the ledgers. And if I go into the customer record, to access that customer record, have a look on the activity, and you'll see that we've got the invoice listed here. You see it's 600. The reference is here as well. Extra reference. Obviously, I didn't put anything into that field, so it hasn't pulled anything through. If you find you haven't got the split here, you just need to, you've got the options at the top to hide detail, show detail. So if you've just got hide detail selected, you'll just see sort of the top level information. If you click show detail, it will give you the breakdown. So as you highlight different transactions, it will give you the detail in the bottom box. If you want to add an attachment at this point, you can do that. So if there's anything you want to attach, you can do that. If you want to add an attachment to the email that goes out to a customer, so in addition to the actual invoice itself, then you need to play around with the settings. You can either have standard attachments go with each one, or if you output your email when you're outputting the invoice, you can have that save it in Outlook to your drafts folder, or possibly even your inbox, depending how you've got that linked. And then it means that you can open that and then you can do a manual attachment. You can't attach anything within the invoicing screen itself. It's either you come into the activity and add an attachment against that transaction, or if it's something that you want to attach as it gets emailed out, it needs to be done via the emails, either via the email settings if it's a standard attachment for every single customer, or if it's going to be a sort of a one-off attachment, then ideally what you want is when you're outputting to email, you output that either to drafts or your inbox, depending on your configuration, and then just means you can open the email. It'll have the invoice attached. It'll have some details in the main body, and at that point you can then attach any additional documents you want, and then obviously click send at that point. So in a nutshell, that's the invoicing process. So for those of you that are fairly new to service invoicing, hope that's giving you a bit more of a bit more confidence, giving you a bit of a whirlwind tour. If anyone's got any final questions, do take that opportunity to pop them in there before I wrap up the webinar. Remember, if you want a copy of the handout, you can download it while you're on the session. On the handout, I've included a couple of useful links as well. You'll find these are all links to articles within our help center. Obviously, that information is really easy to find as well. For live and recorded webinars, we're not going to be running any live sessions after this week, between then and I think it's the second week in January. So in the meantime, obviously you've got recordings available, but there's still plenty of opportunity to get yourself signed up for some of those sessions we've got coming up in January. Got a few more webinars this week as well. So covering bank feeds and VAT returns. I think we're also covering version 33 as well. So if you are interested, do take a look at the live timetable and get yourself registered. Link is included on your follow-up email. Finally, let me thank you for coming along today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful, giving you a bit more confidence, help you get a bit more from your software. Might be that it's just giving you a bit of reassurance what you knew is right. For some, you might be thinking, well, actually, that's not for me. I am going to go down that the route of using product invoices. Again, if you want more information on that one, there should be a webinar recording on the recordings page. As usual, little survey pop up as you leave. If you take a minute to complete that, leave any thoughts, ideas with us, that'd be great. And your follow-up email, which includes the link to today's recording, the link to our registration page, and also the link to our recordings page, that will be with you in round about an hour's time. Right, we'll end the webinar just at that point. So many thanks for coming along. Do take a look at the registration page, get yourself registered for anything you are interested. And if we don't see you before Christmas, hopefully we'll see you in the new year. Many thanks.